Georgia Northwestern Technical College wants to help put you to work. Our programs in business, health, industrial, and public service will train you for the jobs available today. GNTC offers schedules in day, evening, and online classes at 5 campus locations with financial aid options too. You are sure to find a career path that works for you with our variety of degrees, diplomas, and certificates available. Visit us in person or on the web at gntc.edu. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your career begins here.
Welcome to Gridiron Central. I'm your host, Jim Allred, joined as always by Matt Davis from 95.7 The Ridge. My tag team partner in crime, I missed the explosion there, that's my bad, to talk about a lot of key games this week, several big region games in our multiple regions. We start out in Region 7AA, Chattooga at Gordon Lee. This is a game that's vital for both of these teams. If the Indians or the Trojans want to try to sneak into that number 4 or that number 3 spot, they each need a win here. Matt, can the Indians pull a win on the road?
I mean, I think they can, but the thing that's the difference maker to me in this game is I've seen Gordon Lee play, and they're a pretty balanced team in terms of their offense. They've got a pretty decent running game. They've got a quarterback that's pretty good that can throw the ball, and they got a couple of receivers that have made some pretty good catches for them this year. And so for that reason, I think that they're going to give Chattooga some problems in terms of their defense. I think Gordon Lee is going to be able to score more points than Chattooga is. Chattooga has a couple of guys on the team, the Foster brothers that we talk about every week. They're fast, and they could create some problems for Gordon Lee, but I think they're a little bit more one-dimensional than what you see with Gordon Lee. And if things are clicking for Gordon Lee, I don't think they'll have many problems in this game. So I'll pick Gordon Lee for this one.
Gotcha. I want to switch up on this one. I saw Gordon Lee against Darlington, and when I saw Gordon Lee against Darlington, they were completely one-dimensional, couldn't run the ball at all. That's because Darlington took them out of the game. I saw Trey Edge gash Gordon Lee for a whole bunch of yards. The Foster brothers have a chance to have a big game here. The key thing with Chattooga, you can't have turnovers, you can't have silly mistakes. If you go on the road, keep the heads level, you can get this win. I'm going to predict a Chattooga win here. Again, I think this is going to be a very interesting game because both of these teams are playing for their playoff lives. They know another loss doesn't necessarily eliminate them, but it makes it a lot harder down the road if they want to possibly make the playoffs. A game in Region 7AA with playoff implications written all over it. Coosa visits Model. Of course, Model has one loss on the season. That was to Darlington in overtime. That's a Region 7AA loss. Coosa's 2 losses on the season. Both came in the opening weeks of the season. Since then, they won 4 straight games. They're 2-0 in Region 7AA play. Coosa and Darlington are the only 2 teams in Region 7AA that actually control their destiny. If Coosa wins out or if Darlington wins out, they are your region champion. Obviously, Model with the loss to Darlington wants to beat Coosa in the hopes of throwing the region into disarray and hoping to possibly sneak back into the region championship picture. Matt, I think it's going to be a big game. I know y'all are going to be there with the radio. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's our game of the week for a reason. This will be one of the best games that we get out of Region 7AA this year. I think it is going to be a slugfest. When I look at these 2 teams, both teams have a really good running game. And Coosa's Justin Ware has done a fantastic job, and they've really been building up steam. You know, when you watch how they progressed throughout the season, not only did we know they were going to be good going throughout the season, but I think that you'd have to give them an award for most improved because they keep getting better and better. Model, they're fairly banged up. I know that Chris Dublin more than likely will not play in this game. I'm told he was out for the season, although I know he really wants to get back out there and play. He's got to get clears for the from the doctors and the trainers. So I think that puts a bit of a gash in Model's offense. However, Nakyle Watkins is a beast, and he's always just a step or 2 away from breaking a big play. And they've had some big plays. So yes. I think this is one of those games where you're going to see some offense. You know, when I look at this game, it comes down to a couple things. I know you'll probably touch on the special team situation, so I won't steal your thunder there. But I also think this will be a game that will be a battle of the trenches. Whichever team comes out and plays the best in the trenches, I think will have the best shot of winning this game. I'm going with Model, though.
You're going with Model. Model fans rejoice. I'm going with Coosa. I picked against you in this game last year. I'm going to pick again this year. I never seem to learn. Ask Darlington fans. They want me to pick against them all the time because I haven't done well with those picks this year either. Here's why I think this. I think it's going to be a very close game. Last year, Model scored 28 points against Coosa. They went over that magical 24-point mark that I have for them. I think Models is a very good team. I think Models a great playoff team. I think Models defense is phenomenal. I think the offense is very good too. I'm just not sure they can get those 24 points against Coosa. I think Coosa's special teams is a little bit better. And I think at the end of the game, I think it's going to be a very close game, and I think that is going to be the difference when everything is said and done. Is going to be the kicking game. Again, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm going to be out there covering it. I'm looking forward to a great game. And Model fans, if I'm wrong, hey, you know where I am. You can come remind me how wrong I am. Of course, remember last year when I picked against you, you did quite well. Kusa, on the other hand, 4 straight games. They look like they're right in the mix of things. If they win this, they know that in a couple of weeks they're going to have a big game against Darlington.
It's a statement game for either team.
Exactly,
really
you're right. You're right. It is statement game all over. Who wants it more? We will find out Friday night, roughly around 7:30. I am going with Kusa in this one. Another big game, this one in Region 6A in their sub-region, Mount Zion at Tryon. Mount Zion is already 2-0 in the sub-region. Tryon is 0-1. If the Bulldogs want any chance of grabbing the #1 seed out of the sub-region, they have to win at home. Matt, can the Bulldogs do it?
I'm not sure. Tryon's one of those teams I'm having a hard time getting a good feel for. When you look at Mount Zion, their last game, they shut out Christian Heritage 21-0. Well, the last team that Tryon played was Christian Heritage a couple of weeks ago before their bye week, and they barely squeaked past with a 3-0 win in overtime. And so I don't know. I guess based on that and the fact that Mount Zion has been a bit more consistent this year, I'm going to pick them. Nothing will surprise me in this game.
Yeah, it's tough. Tryon's already got the loss to Christian Heritage. You lose 3-0 in overtime. Mount Zion beat Christian Heritage 21-0. So you hate to play common opponents here, but I think this is going to be a good game. Tryon had a bye last week. They know how important this game is. The way I look at it, in all honesty, I think Mount Zion's going to win, but I expect the Bulldogs to put up one heck of a fight on Friday night. Big game. Well, I don't know if it's a huge game, but it's a huge game for the Rome Wolves in Region 7 5A. Rome travels to Woodland. Last week, Dalton unfortunately kind of took the Wolves behind the woodshed for a whipping. It was 14-10 in favor of Dalton at the end of the first quarter. It was a lot to not much at the end of the game. Running clock in the fourth quarter. Look, Rome's got the offense. We know that. The big thing here, Rome needs to win out if they want to go to the playoffs. They have a chance to go to the playoffs, but they cannot lose again. They're in that can't-lose situation. Woodland hasn't won a game this year, but Woodland always plays the Wolves tough. Last year, remember, I believe Woodland beat them in overtime. That game was one of the ones that cost Rome a trip to the playoffs. Matt, do you think the Wolves get the win on the road?
I think the Wolves should win this game by 3 touchdowns, in my personal opinion. However, sometimes when you have a team come out where the pressure's not on them, like the pressure's on the Rome Wolves, then sometimes you see things fall apart for the team that's got the pressure. And so maybe that will factor in this game, especially playing on the road. But I think that the Rome Wolves are extremely motivated right now. Like you mentioned, their offense is pretty darn good. If it's clicking and they don't turn the ball over, they shouldn't have any problems in this game. I'm going with Rome, but they just can't let the pressure of thinking about we've got to win every single game just to have a shot to make the playoffs inside their heads. They just got to get out there and do what they got to do to win the game.
I'm pretty sure Perkins and Franco Perkins and the rest of the coaches have said, look, we're going to take this one game at a time. Let's get the win this week and worry about next week when it happens. The key statistic in all of it is going to be turnovers. When Rome turns the ball over 2 or 3 times in a game, it doesn't bode well for them. You got to have 0 turnovers. They did that against River Ridge, won big. They do that against Woodland. They will win big as well. One more game to talk about. We'll go through this one fairly quickly before we go to commercial break. Cedartown at Haralson County. Haralson County is not a very good team. Cedartown obviously coming off a loss from last week. The Bulldogs will get the win in this one. Matt, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, when you look at this game, I don't think there's going to be much defense from either team, really, because Haralson's given up an average of 43 points a game. Meanwhile, Cedartown's about 36. But at the end of the day, I do think Cedartown's a better team offensively, and I think they'll be able to win by maybe 2 touchdowns.
Gotcha. We have 5 or 6 key games to talk about when we come back from the commercial break. Stick around.
Georgia Northwestern Technical College wants to help put you to work. Our programs in business, health, industrial, and public service will train you for the jobs available today. GNTC offers schedules in day, evening, and online classes at 5 campus locations with financial aid options too. You are sure to find a career path that works for you with our variety of degrees, diplomas, and certificates available. Visit us in person or on the web at gntc.edu. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your career begins here.
Welcome back to the show. As always, we'd like to thank Georgia Northwestern Technical College for helping bring the Emmy-nominated Gridiron Central to you for the last 8 seasons. We said we have more games to talk about, and we do. Moving back to Region 7AA, Armurchie hits the road to take on Dade County. in scenic Trenton, Georgia. You know, neither team has really lit up the season so far this year. Dade hasn't been able to score much. Armurchie has allowed a lot of points, hasn't scored a lot of points. You know, I don't think it's quite a coin flip game. I think Dade being at home, I'm going to go with the Wolverines, Matt.
I'm with you on this one. You know, when I look at Dade County, it's kind of funny to say this. I think their offense is better than Armurchie's, but yet they've been shut out 3 times this year. Armurchie's still looking for their identity. They've changed offenses a little bit this year, and I don't know, man. I just think Dade County's a better team than they've performed this year. So I'll go with Dade.
Gotcha. We agree on that one. Moving up, Pepperell on the road at Central of Carrollton. Central Carrollton undefeated. Really, right now, the class of Region 5 AAA. Pepperell last week lost by 2 points to Rockmart. Devin Collins ran for about 2,842 yards. Actually, it was around 400 plus. It was a Georgia State record. You know, Collins can have a lot of yards in this game, but I just do not think the Dragons have enough to beat Central Carrollton. What do you think, Matt?
Central Carrollton has not given up more than 7 points in a game this year, and they pitched 3 shutouts. This is a really good defensive team, and they can score points too. I don't think this is much of a contest. I think Central Carroll runs away with this game.
Gotcha. Another Region 5 AAA game to talk about. Rockmart, which beat Pepperell last week to go 1-0 in the region, on the road against Callaway, who preseason was a team everyone was talking about in Region 5 AAA. Callaway's had some losses, not region losses. They beat Cedartown last week. Obviously, a win here for Rockmart puts them right in the thick of the region title hunt. It's at Callaway. Rockmart barely edged Pepperell last week. I'm going with Callaway. Matt, what do you think?
I think this is another one of those games that comes down to the defense. And Rockmart scored some points this year. They've been able to score, but they can't keep teams out of the end zone. And I think that's going to be the defining difference in this game. I don't think Callaway's defense are world beaters, but I do think they're a little bit better than Rockmart's at this point. So I'll go with Callaway. And this is a road game for Rockmart, so that also factors in.
Moving to Region 6 AAA, Adairsville at LFO. Look, the Tigers are in control of their destiny as far as the number 2 seed goes. If they win out, they are the number 2 seed and get to host a first-round game in the Class AAA state playoffs. So I believe it starts November 14th, if I remember correctly. Look, LFO's not had a bad season. I do not think they can hang with the Tigers. I'd say the Tigers win in this one, Matt.
Too much offense, too much defense, and the special teams are typically good for Adairsville teams. They're just going to be too much. They're a superior team.
Gotcha. Gordon Central broke its 17-game losing streak last week against Coahulla Creek. I say they now go to a 2-game winning streak. Gordon Central of Murray County, I say the Warriors get their 2nd win of the season. That would be their 2nd win in the last 2 years. Matt, am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy at all. As a matter of fact, I remember last week when we did the radio show, I mentioned that I thought that Gordon Central would run away with this game, and everybody, well, not everybody, I think you kind of stood up for that point too, but you know, a couple people in the room thought I was crazy for saying that. I think this team's
they're a little bit older. They might be senile.
That could be the case.
They probably don't watch. They probably don't watch this show, so I get away with saying that.
Exactly, but somebody might tell them though. But anyway, so I think Gordon Central wins, but Murray County's better this year, I think, than they have been. They've been scoring some points. So who knows, but I think Gordon Central is at least 2 touchdowns better.
Gotcha. Ringgold at Sonoraville to stay in Region 6 AAA. And granted, this is actually a really important game because both of these teams right now have losses to Calhoun and Ringgold, Calhoun and Adairsville. I'll get it right one of these days. Meaning that the winner of this game has the inside track for the number 3 seed into the playoffs out of Region 6 AAA, which doesn't mean a home game, but it means supposedly a slightly easier game in the first round of the playoffs. I'm afraid the Tigers are going to be a little bit too much for the Phoenix, but I think Sonoraville will give them a game. Matt, what do you think?
I agree. I think this is going to be a good game, but at the end of the day, I think pound for pound that Ringgold is a better team. But at the end of this night, if an upset occurs, I won't be totally shocked, but I'm definitely going to pick Ringgold.
Gotcha. We end with our GICAA team. I'll get it right one of these days. Unity Christian travels to Covenant Christian. Of course, last week we knew nothing about Thomas Jefferson Academy. They beat Unity by about 20 points. This week, we know a good bit about Covenant. Covenant was in the ICSGA with Unity. We've seen Covenant play a couple of times. I believe last year Covenant won this game 38-6 or something along those lines. Look, I think it's going to be closer than it was last year, but I don't think the Unity Christian Lions are going to be able to come close enough to win this game. I think Covenant wins. Unity falls to 0-2 in the GICAA region, but have hope, Unity fans. You're going to get a couple more wins later and get to the playoffs. That's what I predict. Matt, what do you think?
Well, you know, the thing about this matchup is when I think of those particular leagues that these two teams play in, this is a rivalry game to me.
It is.
Because of the history of these two teams. They go after each other. They don't like each other. I think this will be an exciting game. But at the end of the day, I think the Covenant Christian is going to win. Yeah. And I honestly cannot tell you why, because I've not seen them play. I've seen Unity play, and I've seen them, struggle to get in the end zone with good field position and those sorts of things. They've got some room to grow, and I think they will. I think Coach Ackerman's a great coach, and he's going to have these kids ready in a couple of years. But I think they stumble in this game. Gotcha.
That's a wrap. We talked about a lot of games, several of them very quickly. Of course, Friday night, be there, model Coosa on the radio, live scoring updates, PrepCentralOnline.com. Later in the evening, we'll have photos and articles from all the games that matter. And, of course, next week, come back, and we'll tell you about all the key games for next week. For Jackson Witzel, Matt Davis, I almost forgot who was sitting next to me. Not my day today. I'm Jim Allred saying we'll see you on the